my god, what is that? Is that a car?
What?
I kind of wanted to start this out going over some game reviews, mainly because if anyone knows me personally, you know my feelings with this game. And I don't think I've ever gotten it out of my head of IGN's review of back when Emerald came out, or Sapphire and Ruby, and they were just like, too much water. But it was a game based around land and sea. Anyway, I have very strong opinions of this game. Because I have lived my whole life playing this game. This game, without trying to exaggerate, has been my life. This whole franchise. And I've been there since the Game Boy games, and it means a lot to me. And I tend to feel really passionate about when it fucks up. So that's kind of what I just wanted to start with, because honestly, I have many opinions and I need to get it out on some form of just somewhere there that I can talk about it, because everyone I talk to is like they're done listening about it. They don't care. That's fine. So I just wanted to read this review because I keep hearing people keep playing it, but there were so many conflicting things as far as there was a massive refund rate, and they still like sold like 10 million copies and all that stuff. So I was really confused with how it's being received, because I am well aware how I received it. And it seems like half of those people also agree, but I've never seen it so like split down the middle before. And I found this article not too long ago, and it made me go through so many emotions. And this girl, Rebecca Valentine, I haven't read your full article yet, but we're gonna do it. You really had me going in this first paragraph, because did I read the first paragraph? I read like half the first paragraph, like skimmed it. That already took me for a ride. So, thank you. I would just like to say, I respect this writer. Obviously, this game is very split in its opinions. As long as she doesn't say there's too much water, I think we'll be cool. It is still unbelievable to me that after 26 years of linear, straightforward RPGs, developer Game Freak really looked at Pokemon plays dead in the eye and said, "It's fine, go wherever you want." To me, that sounds like she's about to absolutely crap on this game, which I was all for. I was like, Rebecca, what are you doing? Anyway, and then we read on. In the lead up to the launch of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I thought this claim would end up being a marketing gimmick, a little joke, something we'd all be mad about later. But from the moment I left the hallowed halls of Uva Academy, that promise has been wonderfully fulfilled. Wonderfully fulfilled. With open world, open-ended gameplay serving as a shining beacon for the future of this beloved franchise, and yet a finger on the cursed Mankey's paw, I like that, has curled away. Scarlet and Violet's wonderful, innovative design is dramatically undermined by the numerous ways in which they feel deeply unfinished, with issues ranging from an incomplete world to massive and ubiquitous technical problems. This is where I'm feeling the roller coaster, because now she's telling the truth, and I love that. She can still love it and know the issues. We love that. We love someone who is, staying unbiased for the most part. Well, I don't know if she's biased, but so even though I want to celebrate how this generation reinvents and reinvigorates the world of Pokemon, I can't without putting a great big warning label on it. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks to Game Freak's commitment to truly open world, from the second you leave the school after the tutorial, you can run around, all the way to late game areas full of powerful trainers and gym leaders. I have a point about that. Catch high-level Pokemon and make the adventure very difficult and rewarding for yourself accordingly. I don't like that for a Pokemon game. And I don't think that's coming from a place of preference. Oh, I don't want it to be too hard to begin with. Pokemon has always been a role-playing game. And I feel like I'm going to go off topic, but I'm going to try and stick to it and get to this point later. But what is the point of going to a extremely overpowered area if you are not ready? Because you will die. Like, I understand wanting to do your own thing, look at like what you want to do, some mini missions, the gyms, whatever. It's fine. But it seems like they didn't really figure it out, and like the goal, at least from my experience, seemed very muddy. I didn't really know, like, it's just like, oh, do whatever you want. And I was just like, well, I've been playing this game for well over a decade, and what I want to do is go to the gyms. Like, that's what you have taught me. um, and yeah, so I don't know. From my personal experience playing the game, as much as they kept saying it's open world, I didn't really care. It didn't make me care because I went into it with the mindset of playing a Pokemon game. You know, find all the new generation Pokemon, go to the gyms, they don't give you badges now, do they? They give you like a selfie. That took me off too. Anyway, for anyone worried about accidentally leaping into a too difficult area, fear not. Paldea is largely arranged to be friendly to those looking for a more gradual challenge, and even more so is designed just right for getting pleasantly lost, backtracking, wandering off the beaten route. I did not have this experience. And I'm going to say this, it's my issue with the design of this. It just, I mean, I don't know if anyone else felt this. It feels like they gave us a beta game, like a beta tester. And even though like I was just like cool to explore, like whatever, it was so boring. Like just like the landscape was so unappealing. It like there was just like random trees plotted everywhere. Even the towns don't even feel like towns. It just feels like they put some asset buildings in there. And I think that was my problem with it, is that it didn't feel like a Pokemon game. And I'm not saying it has to be like the other Pokemon games, but these towns and villages didn't feel like towns and villages. They feel like you just stuck a bunch of assets there for the meantime so you can get a scope of what it looks like. And so yeah, like going off like everything, it's just green and there's a couple of trees. That was most of my experience. And then there's a cliff. It wasn't it didn't wow me, and I feel like with this game that they were hyping up so much, they should have wowed me. Given that there's no level scaling to play as in Pokemon tradition, exploring Paldea at a steady and unguided pace will somewhat inevitably have you encountering foes that are either extra challenging or too easy at different points. With roughly 400 different Pokemon species available, I was still enjoying poking around the lower level areas, finding monsters I hadn't seen yet. And those discoveries were rewarding even when the battles weren't. Okay. It's a process made especially delightful by how silly and clever the many new Pokemon. Okay, yeah, they're fun. You know, we like all the crazy little Pokemon that they made. I don't have an issue with any of those. Except for that creepy spider one. I don't like that. I don't like it. I will say, and this is what kind of made me realize that I wasn't enjoying myself. My favorite part of the game was finding Gen 2 Pokemon, because it was like a nostalgia kick. And I don't think the best part of your game should be the nostalgia. It should be like it should be a nod off it. If anything, you should be like, oh my god, they have things from when I was a kid in this game, woo! And then you really love the game because all this stuff that's happening that's new. Moving across the grassy plains and rocky deserts of the land of Paldea made it easier thanks to legendary Pokemon that you obtain at the start of the game. That is also an issue I have. Why? I mean, okay, to be fair, you can't, at least from how much I played, you couldn't battle with him straight away, so I guess, you know, there's that. He's basically just having a bike in the old games. I'm glad she's referencing Arceus, because that's something I actually want to talk about. Like, it isn't the same level as detail, and like we know what they can do. Arceus, like, I know they didn't really label Arceus as, you know, an open world game. It was pretty much open world. Like, you had your side missions, you go back to the village, you know, you do the main story if you want, but you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can walk wherever you want within reason. And I love that game. And I'm not huge on open world games just because I got ADHD and it's really hard for me to grip onto these types of games, which is why the original Pokemon kind of always stuck with me, because it's quite linear with like a bit of freedom. But Arceus, like, I loved it. I thought this is how you expand into new areas while keeping the essence of that game. Well, the franchise, I mean. And this didn't have it. Arceus was well designed. It looked cohesive. The towns looked cohesive. Everything kind of looked where it was supposed to be, and it wasn't just boring grassland or like dirt. Like, there was different things going on. There was different terrain. There was different altitudes that you could walk to that were like within a certain like reach. Like, you could do a lot of stuff in such a small area. And I just feel like they just gave us the map for the new one, and it's just a circle with some grass and a couple of trees. And that's what I don't get, because, I mean, a lot of people liked Arceus. I loved Arceus. And so I just don't get how people are so in love with this game when, you know, I assume they were technically putting in more work for this one because this is the new generation. Like, this is the generation that's gonna, you know, it's the next one. And the fact that, in my opinion, it didn't even compare to Arceus, that shouldn't be correct, right? Like, it just doesn't seem right. And it feels insulting as someone who has played the games for like a long time. It feels like a slap in the face to put your money towards all these games and support this franchise for so long, and then this is what they give you, and it feels like an unfinished game. And the thing that sucks about stuff like this is, you know, we know that there was a lot of refunds and everything like that, but they still sold like over 10 million copies. And what that basically says to Game Freak is, you can give us an unfinished game. We will still buy it. And now that pretty much gives them permission to keep giving us unfinished games. I am upset. And I feel like I have every right to be upset. I have dedicated so much time and money of my life on so many things that are Pokemon. You know, plushies, VHSs, DVDs when DVDs started becoming a thing. You know, the games. You know, spin-offs of the games. Pokemon-inspired Game Boys. Like, I just thought it would be better. And it's kind of not what I wanted. And I'm not saying that you can't enjoy the game. Do you really think it's the same level at least with Arceus? Like, does it deserve that praise of Arceus? I don't think so. This is an RPG. Pokemon has always been an RPG. You can't even go into buildings anymore. You can't talk to people anymore. Like, it's an RPG. You used to be able to talk to people, like, they would tell you stuff. Sometimes they would, like, give you something or, like, make you do something to get something. Like, there's none of that. Like, the only building you can go into is, like, a food place. And you don't even eat the food. You eat, like, a little PNG behind you. Most buildings are facades that you can't enter with nothing to do around them. Most stores are just menus that you open up and interact with the door. And the biggest cities have the same storefronts repeated over and over. In what game have you not been able to go into buildings and whenever they would have like a restaurant, there would always be like some form of restaurant in most Pokemon games where everyone in that restaurant like wants to fight. And it's like a challenge. Or like in Sapphire and Ruby, there's this house that there's this whole family that wants to battle you. They'll come out one by one. You can't go to the Pokemon Center. It's a challenge, and then you get a prize off. A lot of the trainer and bystander NPC dialogue is also relegated to classes you can take at school. Don't get me wrong, I love the classes. I don't like the classes. I thought they were gonna like be interactive. I thought like when you said you wanted to do a cooking class, you were gonna do something like the puffin thing or some crap like that. Like, right? Am I crazy for that assumption? It's reading the trainer tip signs from the old games. Oh god, there's so much. Oh my god. Alright, this is all we need. This is all we need, guys. These games run like garbage. There you go. I'm glad you feel conflicted, Rebecca, because at least we have that in common. It is completely impossible to play Scarlet and Violet and not notice at least some of its performance issues. Every minute I was happily running around in the grassy fields of Paldea. I was also actively cringing at the Pokemon stuck in the floor, wincing at some of the weird frame rate nonsense going on with nearby wild Pokemon, or groaning at another bout of crippling lag. Be at the start of an exciting new era for the series. I agree that could be fantastic. Makes all these problems significantly worse. After a decades-long ban, I desperately want better for Pokemon, especially given how clear it is that the design fundamentals are absolutely there under the surface. But if you are devoted to this series, as so many are, know that the proper care we've all come to expect has not been shown here. And I completely agree with that. If you're a longtime fan, it's kind of a slap in the face. And she mentioned the whole, you can't customize, Arceus, you change so much of your look. I'm pretty sure started introducing like actual clothes and stuff, like changing in, what was the French one? It wasn't Sword and Shield, was it? It was the French inspired, it could have been Sword and Shield, but anyway. The blonde girl with the red hat and the skirt, it kind of, like, I loved it. So many people, like, apparently didn't like a part of the series. I thought it had so many new things. Visually, it had so much going on. When I was younger, playing that game, I thought it was fantastic. And, there was so much new things to do, like customizing how you look, which is great for people. Oh, let's see what people say. But bottom line, this game is clearly rushed for the holiday release. From 2019 to 2022, they released Sword and Shield, Diamond and Pearl remakes, Arceus, and Violet/Scarlet. It's not arguable Pokemon is the biggest selling media franchise on the planet. That is true. Beating both Mickey. It's the biggest selling, like, media, I'm pretty sure, like, franchise. Good, it's getting held accountable for its technical shortcomings. I've seen too many games get high scores that are really unpolished on release. I agree. They don't any big release for the holiday season. I don't know what that means. It's disappointing. It's disappointing as a fan of the games, but it's insulting. So that's all I'm gonna say. What did she rate this? Do they have a rating system? A 6. I guess I know where she's coming from as far as the 6, because obviously there are a lot of elements that could work so well in this game, but they don't. And so I understand she probably gave it that 6 because of the potential that I think we all know it has. But what we were given was a glitchy, buggy, laggy mess that just feels unfinished. I personally, if I was feeling real cranky, maybe I'd give it a 4. But I think I would stick at 5, because 5 is me being nice. Honestly, I would love to go lower than 4, but, like, I have to kind of separate it from my personal frustrations with my expectations of the game. But I get why she gave it a 6. At no point was I really having fun. And that says a lot to me. Especially a game that I've been dedicated to for over a decade. Like, it feels like, even if it's extremely different, Game Freak has the experience. Like, they know what people like. They have so many things that they knew worked and they knew didn't work from previous games. I just don't know what happened.